Yeah, I have done it. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay. So just remove the earphone. Okay. Done. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, sir, you can, just a second, you can hang up.
Oh,
Yes, yes.
okay. Thank
You
you.
can start after 1 minute, sir, and now also you can start.
Okay. Okay. Done.
There are, I think, 10 people right now. Wait for 2, 3 minutes. Okay, 10. 14 now. 14 now. So
Oh.
just wait for 2, 3 more minutes. 17 now. Just reach that number. Let the number reach 30. Okay.
Okay. Right. So, welcome everybody. This is Dr. Harikrishnan Parthasarathi, Senior Interventional Cardiologist from Apollo Hospitals in Chennai. Welcome you all for this meeting. Today we'll be talking about the implications of COVID-19 pandemic on cardiovascular disease. Stay at home does not apply for cardiac emergencies is the topic they have given for me. What I would say is like this is one of the worst epidemics in the recent history. We know that we've been through lots of other epidemics like bird flu, SARS, MERS, and seasonal flus. The problem with COVID is most of the patients are asymptomatic and suddenly turn quite symptomatic with shortness of breath, leading on to serious consequences. And as we know, in India, the first case was discovered in January the 30th, and then now we have nearly about 27,000 to 28,000 cases now, actually. And you have the origin is from, as we all know, it's from Wuhan, and now it's throughout the world now. Around 180 to 200 countries have got the COVID now, and the current status in the world is nearly about 30 lakh people have been affected by the virus, out of which unfortunately we've lost about 2 lakh people actually. US is on the top. As we all know, the methods of spread from all the good media, we have known that the main way of infectivity is through airborne from close contacts. People, if they just stay with you or stay very near you, then people are very much spreading the droplets, and also airborne and fomites by the droplets spilling onto objects, and then from which it can spread actually. So most common symptoms are fever, and is seen in more than 80% of people, dry cough, which is important, sore throat, and also the main other defining symptom is shortness of breath. So if you see three symptoms predominant is dry cough, fever, and shortness of breath, unlike the other flu and common cold we have actually. So if you see the disease progression, cough, fever, day one, and difficulty in breathing, day six, admission to the hospital, day eight, and if people have go the serious way, if they progress that side, then usually they try to unfortunately end up in the ITU, and ARDS like picture develops in day 12, acute kidney injury and multi-system dysfunction day 15, and unfortunately death can happen in a small percent in day 20th, around day 20. The R naught number or the infectivity of flu is around 1.3. That means that one person can infect 1.3 people, but in COVID the numbers are around 2 to 2.5, and the incubation time is around as much as 2 weeks. They can go asymptomatic. Hospitalization rates are around one fifth of people. That's 20%. Case fatality rate is higher than the common flu in the form of around 3 to 4% can get the fatal consequences. And the virus as such can last in the air for about 3 hours, in metal like copper for 4 hours, cardboard for about a day, stainless steel for about 2 to 3 days, and plastics for about 3 days. So wash your hands well with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Cover your cough or sneeze with a tissue, then throw them in the basket. So when you come home after anywhere, then you tend to not touch anything. Remove your shoes outside. Disinfect if possible. Disinfect your legs also. Wash them with soap and water. Remove your clothes and place them in a bag to be washed, and leave your all the items in a little basket which you have to sterilize. Shower before you get into the your your house. Actually, that's the best way to protect everybody in the house. Actually, the personal protection equipments has to be used depending on where you're working. All the housekeeping staff, canteen workers, administrative staff, pharmacies all have ppms, including the op staff, doctors, intensivists. All of them should wear appropriate ppes. Face masks, people, the general public can just wear cloth masks or the common surgical masks, which are really not needed for them. People who are working in a COVID scenario or treating potentially COVID patients should wear an N95 masks. And we know that a single case can infect as many as really 1,500 cases, actually, especially as one case in South Korea, which affected nearly 80% of cases of South Korea. 1,500 cases got affected by the case 31 in South Korea. Now, by the breakdown of the cases here, the initially there were very high numbers. Now, slowly the numbers have been, the peak has been flattened because of the aggressive measures taken by our government, thanks to our government, and the very strict, stringent measures they are taking. Now, phased lockdown has out for us. When people are actually in the frontline workers, they should go for the National Task Force for COVID has recommended the prophylaxis from HCQ, and that we will talk about in detail actually. And if you look at the various tests we do, we have CT scans which are highly sensitive, about 80%, show ground glass opacities, diffuse alveolar damage, organizing pneumonia, lot of lymph nodes, and also have rapid progression if people are unfortunate. Lots of tests are being done, including lactate, troponin. If troponin is elevated, then we'll talk about that. Then it's a poor prognosis. You have people who present with high ferritin also, CK, creatine kinase, high liver function tests, lactate levels, CRP levels, white cell count levels. All these things are very important. So when people who are actually really prone for the COVID severe disease, or people who are over 70, people who have other combined risk factors like diabetes, ischemic heart disease, hypertension, COPD, immunosuppression, and people who are already on cancer treatment and things like that. Most of the people present with the mild symptoms or no symptoms. Like in India, lots of people are asymptomatic, and like 80% of them, and 20% unfortunately get severe symptoms, but only about around 3% to 5% get intubated, and unfortunately about 3% of them of these people die also. So when we look at the COVID and cardiovascular system, SARS-CoV-2 infection is caused by binding of the viral surface spike protein to the AC receptor. So we use lots of ARBs and AC inhibitors actually, and AC receptor are expressed in the lungs principally in the type 2 alveolar cells and appear to be the predominant portal of entry. ACE2 is highly expressed in the heart as well, counteracting the effects of ACE2 by means of these inhibition produces excess activation of this renin-angiotensin system, and hypertension and congestive cardiac failure and atherosclerosis can be, and in the lung and the heart, and also it's also expressed in the intestines and also the blood vessels, kidneys. So when the people get affected, they get overall multi-system involvement, unfortunately, in severe cases. And if you look at the case fatality rate, then the age plays a major factor. People who are under 50, less than 1%. People who are over 50 until 60, 1.3. People who are over 60-year-old, 3.6%. For 70-year-old, 8%. For 80-year-olds, nearly 15% can get affected actually, and there is an linear relation to that. So, and also the, like similar to the SARS and MERS, other epidemics, the COVID also has commonly affects the people with other comorbidities. About 50% of people will have other comorbidities like hypertension, diabetes, or cardiovascular disease, and these patients, there is about a 10 to 15% increase in the mortality also. So that's where we actually have to be very careful when people have heart problems. We have to be very careful in the measures, the usual measures we take, and we'll go through that in detail. Now, the disease is similar in throughout the world. Actually, in China, and also we know almost 80% were very mild, and about 20% developed severe symptoms and also required hospitalizations. And complication rate is very high in those who have other comorbid conditions, especially heart problems. So people with pre-existing heart disease who become severely ill with COVID may suffer a heart attack or develop congestive heart failure, and this is because of the secondary impact of the fever, and the heart gets affected because of the high demand of the high heart rate, high oxygen levels, which is usually needed during fever. But in fact, in this condition, we have low oxygen levels due to pneumonia and increased tendency for clotting in the system. There is a big cytokine storm also released. There is a big actually inflammatory process in the body happening, and that leads on to system involvement, especially myocarditis in the heart, and that has one of the major factor for developing very weak heart and develop pumping failure, needing people needing to go on support therapy, like specialized machines like heart lung machine to support the patient in severe cases. And people often find symptoms or signs of a major heart attack. Blood reveal elevated levels of troponin, which is a cardiac enzyme which develops because of heart muscle damage. Heart muscle becomes weak and also can develop arrhythmias actually, like heart can beat very fast or slow, and that can lead on to severe problems. So when you develop symptoms of chest pain or palpitations along with fever, you have to be very careful. You have to seek medical help immediately. Don't sit at home. People actually always worry about coming to the hospitals during these times, but in fact we have to be the other way. We have to seek help early so that you can get treated early also. So people with about 10% of people with pre-existing cardiovascular disease who contract COVID-19 will die, compared to only 1% of patients who are otherwise healthy. That's why I told actually that's an important factor. And also people with high blood pressure, coronary artery disease also tend to develop COVID, serious COVID also. So we have to be very much mindful about this. So there is also a controversy about the people who are already on ACE inhibitors and angiotensin receptor blockers like telmisartan, Cardace, and things like that. These people, whoever have been taking it, we advise them to continue the same medications, not to stop them. If you want to initiate as a new tablet, try not to do it, and we can try alternative medicines also, because there's one way the virus can get into the system through this ACE pathway, and the ACE pathway has shown studies to be beneficial and some studies to be not to be beneficial also. Still there is no definite. And also the American societies, American Heart Association, Heart Failure Society of America, all of them recommend to continue the medication also. And what do you do to prevent the infection? There are no specific protocols, but people should avoid exposure at any cost. If you feel bored at home, kindly don't go out, venture out. In of that, you stay at home, practice physical distancing, try not to mingle with younger people in your family, try to be isolated, and frequent hand washing, try to be updated on the flu vaccinations and pneumonia vaccinations, try to maintain a good healthy lifestyle, do exercise very well, important, mostly indoor be better, or in your open space in your rooftop also is okay. And also to maintain any avoid social contact with children or also young people, because most of the children and young people are very much asymptomatic, and you don't know these people are can be carriers of the COVID, and they can spread it to you. Once you get it, then it might be a big problem. So European Society of Cardiology tells that we must continue to save lives, and we must continue to do what we need to do in protecting you actually as cardiology patients and cardiology community who need our help. We are there to protect you. So now, how do we actually go about treating you? Is like we have special OP setup where we have a separate block not to mix the COVID patients and the usual cardiology and other patients. We have telemedicine consultation in most of us being no done or being actually prepared, and UCG, echo, and other tests being done members who are fully protected with PPEs, and doctors who most of them try to deal with electronic or teleconsultation, but if needed have to see you through tele action in a hospital setting also. And try to be restricted the amount of attenders you're bringing into the hospital, so that you don't try to contact COVID and spread COVID also. Full PPE is being used in hospital to protect you and protect us from the COVID. And one thing about the cardiology side is like most of the people who present a problem with the ST segment elevation may not really have what we usually find like clot inside the coronary arteries. They don't have clots. They usually have myocarditis, which mimic a heart attack, and we have to be mindful about that also. For inpatient setting, who require cardiology inpatients, our hospital has established. Most of the hospitals are trying to establish minimal delays and avoid other infections. People who need to be hospitalized are specifically screened for COVID most of the times, either through blood tests or CT scan and other IgG, IgM antibodies. And also, if COVID is ruled out, then you still have a specific area where you can be triaged to get treatment, so that you don't get the infection of other COVID patients. And most of the hospitals also have COVID specific hospital. They don't mix the COVID with the usual hospitals, or specific ward where it is not mixed also. And patients who are actually as a nation stay get specifically tested, retested for COVID, make sure they are not getting infected also. People who are actually coming into the hospital, you have to make sure you're bringing too many attenders, only one attender, and if at all possible, no attender also is good. And people who have to stay, usually stay as much as shorter in the hospital. For example, if you need an angio or an angioplasty, usually day-care surgeries are also possible. Now, the people who are actually coming in for a ST segment elevation myocardial for not do angioplasty if possible. If you the guidelines have changed to try to trauma this, actually that means giving clot busting medications rather than doing angioplasty as an emergency, that you get stabilized first and you get a COVID testing before going to the cath lab, so that the risk of infection for you and for the doctors is also less. Now, to be very careful, we have a protocol to whenever you undergo specific testing, both for the PCR test and the antibody test, make sure you are safe before coming to the cath lab, so that you get tested properly. So that is all we have. Now, what we can do is like I will end the and we can go on live and I'll take your question. I can put 67 people logging in, so I can take your questions as we see. 1 minute, I'll connect my phone. So there are a few questions which have been asked here. Let's look. Lots of people are just saying good evening and wishing me. What I would say is like what we have to do to prevent patients getting infected. It's all the other patients who have the what the government is doing in a way, social distancing, try to not to mingle with people who are actually having young people and children. They will be asymptomatic carriers. Try to stay away from them. Try to resist the urge to go out, like what you normally do for relaxing. Try not to go around and go around shops and things like that. Make sure your young people gets it for you, so that you don't go around during the everything until everything is done. A vaccine is going to be the definitive answer for this, but until then we have get the herd immunity. Somebody is asking, Anuj is asking about Anuj is asking about what are the basic symptoms of COVID. As I told you, three symptoms will be present in more than 95% of people. First is cough, next is fever, and shortness of breath. Shortness of breath usually comes a little later, after 7th or 8th days, when you have to be very careful about this. Will there be worsening of heart failure if a patient suffers from COVID? Mr. Sakshat Kulkarni is asking me. I would say if patients have underlying heart failure, if they are on good amount of good evidence-based treatment, usually you should be very safe. Most of the people, about 90-95% of everything happens, so don't need to worry. You continue your medications. Make sure you actually follow the proper guidelines. Actually, no need to worry about that. And our government is doing an excellent job if to make people aware of what we should be doing. Gunaseelan is asking, is there any chance that COVID-19 infection will alter ACE inhibitor drug action? So as I told you, ACE inhibitors are very sheet anchor for treatment of heart patients, both coronary artery disease and people who are having ischemic heart disease, people who have low pumping action of the heart, for which are also being used. So don't need to stop these medications. Continue. All the guidelines are asking us to continue, but there is a small doubt that ACE inhibitors can act through the ACE channels, which are present slightly in a high amount in people using these medications, and try it into the system more easily. But there is also evidence that in experiments in animals and other experiments, that people who are taking ACE inhibitors and ARBs are protected against COVID infection, also against the bad effects of COVID. So I would suggest that you continue your ACE inhibitors and ARBs. Any doubt, go to your general physician or cardiologist to answer it. So, and also somebody is asking, Neeraj
Nasheen is asking, I have alien. Am I at a greater risk of getting coronavirus infection? No. The answer is no, actually. So, don't worry. Anujit is asking about how COVID-19 is transmitted. So, mainly three ways of transmission. Only one is by droplet infection. When people are speaking, then they produce very, very tiny droplets. In 1 lakh to so many droplets are produced. And these can stay in the air for a few minutes. And if people are very much nearby, they can inhale that. People also can get blood which are dropping on surfaces and touching them. That's a fomite type of infection can also get you can get affected actually. So that you can be touching them or you touch them and rub on your nose and eating that these can spread. Is there in the symptoms of heart patients and normal patients for COVID? So people who get symptoms due to COVID, you get very severe breathlessness, and that is the major symptom. People who can present with like a heart attack, but may not be really having a heart attack. So like that, it can come. Tavasumani Sellan is asked what diet needs to be followed. I would suggest follow a very healthy diet, like what you normally do. People who have already low salt, low carbohydrate, high diet, and do exercise also. So people who have coronary artery disease should eat less fried food and less spicy food. Things are good. So let's see if any other question. What is the prediction? Is it in a peak of corona or is it yet to come in India? I would suggest that we are nearly peaking now because of the lockdown measures. I think the peak has been flattened. We haven't seen lakhs of cases as we should have expected by now. So it's all excellent measures what's been taken by our government. So I would suggest that in another 15 to 20 days time, we should see diminishing case numbers, and but we should nevertheless maintain all the measures. Now we are in a danger when the lockdown is being lifted, then the transmission slightly might increase also. So you have to be mindful of that. Make sure we are not spitting everywhere. Make sure we are maintaining a very hygienic lifestyle. Make sure this COVID has taught us a good lesson. People are not taking hygiene for granted anymore. People should make sure they actually follow rigorous discipline. Like I often find people take things for granted in public places. People should maintain hygiene as it's been done now actually. So hope this corona we taking lots of positives from it rather than all negative things out of it. Nitin Akash is asking, so beta blocker can worsen symptoms of COVID? No, actually beta blockers could be useful in fact for people with COVID, so don't need to worry about that. So can ivermectin provide positive outcomes in CVD patients with COVID? So lots of things have been tried. There is not really any medications have not been proven to be 100% implicated for treatment as of now. Treatment goes on with chloroquine, azithromycin. Also, monoclonal antibodies are being tested. Plasma from people who have actually already recovered, that has been tested. Out of this, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin has been tested. Lots of things, all of them are in experimental stages now. So no real guidelines from any society as of now. So your doctor who have been treating you, treating you, or the local guidelines will take over. Ivermectin has found to be beneficial in certain studies, but not in certain studies also. So some people have been asking, is there any connection with reducing infection by foods which have high pH values in COVID patients? In fact, acidic pH, high pH means in fact people are basic pH. In fact, I don't know about that actually. I have to find out. If Abhilash knows about that, you can enlighten about that. I don't know about that. Losart is being utilized and discussed in a trial. So yeah, that is a good thing actually. That's what I was telling. In certain trials, losartan has been tested and has been found to be useful, but we don't know the end result of it actually. So we have to wait for that. Plasma therapy, how effective? Definitely effective. I have found in from case reports being effective, people getting cured, but we don't know. We don't know any randomized control trials. We haven't compared plasma therapy without plasma therapy in like situations. It's too early for us to conclude, but definitely plasma from people who have actually recovered from COVID would be useful, as it will have lots of rich antibodies and it will be useful for patients to fight the disease. We have heard that BCG vaccination has lesser incidences. That's one of the hopes we have. BCG, hot weather, because we have already prone for lots of infections. We have immunity. All these things have been spoken about, but that should not take us off the guard. That should not prevent us from being more careful. Beware second surge in the cases. All of us should act very much, carefully and try sensible from here on. That was an excellent discussion, and half an hour of all your questions have been answered. I am grateful for all your lovely participation, and I thank you for this actually. Thank you very much.